Imagine standing barefoot on rocky ground, the cold morning air clinging to your skin. In front of you, your comrades, silent and tense. Behind you, the city of Sparta, watching and expecting nothing less than total victory or death. For the Spartans, war was not a choice, it was life itself. And behind the legends of heroism and glory lies a brutal truth few could endure. Tonight, on Time to Sleep History, we'll journey into the heart of ancient Sparta to uncover the painful, exhausting, and often terrifying reality of what it meant to be a Spartan warrior. But before we begin, dim your lights, grab something warm to sip on, and let me know in the comments what time it is where you're listening from. Now, breathe easy, let your body relax, and let yourself drift back to a world where even sleep offered only the briefest escape from hardship. The craftsman's workshop waits in the shadows, where bronze and wood will soon become something far greater than their separate parts. Here, in the steady rhythm of hammer-on metal and the glow of forge fire, an aspis takes shape, a Spartan shield that will carry the weight of honor, duty, and death itself. The craftsman begins with wood, selecting pieces that have dried for seasons in the Spartan sun. His weathered fingers trace the grain, feeling for flaws that could mean the difference between life and death on some distant battlefield. He layers the wood with precision, each piece glued and pressed into place to form a rounded base nearly 3 feet across. The wood settles into its new shape with soft creaks, already bearing the promise of the burden it will carry. You watch as he shapes the convex surface, understanding that this curve will deflect spear thrusts and sword strikes that would otherwise find their mark in flesh. Each scrape of his tools removes another sliver, bringing the shield closer to its destined form. The workshop fills with the sweet scent of wood shavings mixed with the sharp tang of heated metal. Now comes the bronze, glowing in the forge's mouth. The craftsman lifts it with long tongs, working quickly as he hammers the metal into a thin sheet that will cover the wooden foundation. Each strike sends sparks dancing through the darkness, and the bronze begins to conform to the wood beneath with measured blows. The weight grows with each addition. What started as manageable wood now becomes something heavier, more serious. This 15-pound burden represents commitment, the physical reminder that a Spartan cannot simply drop his shield and run. As the bronze cools, the craftsman offers quiet prayers to Zeus and Athena, seeking divine favor for the shield and its future bearer. These sacred words bind protection into the very metal itself, making the shield a vessel for more than bronze and wood. It holds the prayers of its maker, the expectations of a warrior culture, and the weight of Spartan tradition. The leather straps require equal care. Cut from hides treated with oils and salt, they must be supple yet strong enough to hold fast when arrows fill the air and spears seek gaps in the phalanx. The craftsman positions them knowing that a warrior's life may depend on how securely they grip his arm. The bronze rim receives particular attention, hollowed smooth but left thick enough to serve as a weapon when fighting becomes too close for spears. The final touch transforms wood and bronze into something unmistakably Spartan. The craftsman paints a red lambda in the center of the shield's bronze face, the symbol representing Lacedaemon, the ancient name for the Spartan homeland. This single mark changes everything, turning simple protection into declaration, promise, and threat all at once. The craftsman steps back, examining his completed work. The shield sits ready, its bronze surface catching the forge light like a mirror. It waits with patient inevitability, knowing that its destiny lies not in this peaceful workshop, but on battlefields where mud turns red and the air fills with the cries of the dying. The aspis has been born, but its life will be measured not in years of quiet service, but in moments of desperate violence. You can sense the shield's anticipation as it rests against the workshop wall. Somewhere in Sparta, a boy approaches his 7th birthday, the age when he will be taken from his mother's arms and introduced to the life of a warrior. The shield waits for those small hands to first grasp its leather straps, to feel the weight that will become as familiar as breathing. The craftsman covers the shield with soft cloth, protecting its surface for the journey ahead. But even wrapped and hidden, the aspis radiates purpose. It has been crafted with the understanding that it will either protect a life or serve as a bier to carry a body home. There is no middle ground in Spartan warfare, no compromise between victory and death. As the forge fire burns low and the workshop settles into quiet, the shield dreams of bronze-clad warriors moving in perfect formation across ancient battlefields. It dreams of the moment when duty and death dance together in the space between heartbeats. Most of all, it dreams of small hands growing strong enough to lift its weight, of a child who will learn that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to carry bronze and wood into the face of mortality itself. The lambda gleams in the dying firelight, a red promise painted on bronze. Soon, very soon, a 7-year-old boy will approach this shield for the first time, and the aspis will begin its true purpose, not just as protection, but as witness to the transformation of innocence into something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. A 7-year-old Spartan first hefts his shield with hands that shake from more than the mounting cold. The bronze surface feels the touch of small fingers that have just been torn from everything familiar. Mother's embrace, warm hearth, gentle words. He stands in the barracks of the Agoge, holding this burden that seems impossibly heavy for such small arms. The shield can sense his confusion, the way his breath comes in short gasps as he tries to understand why the world has suddenly become so harsh and unforgiving. You can feel his terror radiating through the bronze as older boys surround him, their faces already hardened by years of training. They show him how to grip the leather straps, how to position the shield against his forearm, but their instructions come with casual cruelty. When he fumbles, they strike him. When he cries, they strike him harder. The shield becomes witness to this systematic breaking down of childhood, absorbing each impact as if it were feeling the blows itself. The nights bring little comfort. You can sense the shield resting beside the boy's rough palate, feeling the vibrations of his muffled sobs. The barracks are cold, built to toughen rather than comfort. He wears only a thin cloak, the same garment he must use year-round to learn endurance of heat and cold. His feet are bare against the stone floor, skin that was once soft already beginning to crack and harden. As Xenophon tells us, boys were underfed to teach resourcefulness and marched barefoot through winter winds to harden their feet. Food becomes a constant source of anguish. The boys are deliberately starved, forced to steal to survive. The shield watches as small hands learn to move silently through the darkness, searching for scraps from the kitchens or bread hidden by older boys. When caught, the whipping comes swift and merciless. The shield absorbs the impact of his body as he falls, feeling the tremors of pain that run through his small frame. But these beatings serve their purpose. Slowly, painfully, the boy learns stealth and cunning. The shield becomes his only constant companion in a world designed to strip away everything familiar. While other boys come and go, promoted or broken by the training, the aspis remains. It feels the gradual changes in his grip, the way his fingers grow stronger and more confident around the leather straps. The bronze grows warm with his body heat during long training sessions, cooling again when he sets it down with exhausted arms. You can watch through the shield's perspective as childhood softness disappears piece by piece. The boy learns to endure the ritual whippings at the altar of Artemis Orthia, where boys tried to steal cheeses while guards struck them with whips. The shield witnesses his transformation, feeling the pride that mingles with something lost as he realizes he is becoming something harder than the child who first lifted its weight. His voice changes, becoming more laconic, more controlled. He learns the art of brief, cutting phrases that mark him as truly Spartan. The training grows more intense as seasons pass. The shield experiences combat drills where boys fight with wooden weapons, feeling the vibrations of impact as its bearer learns to use it not just for protection but as a weapon itself. The bronze rim can crush bones when properly wielded. The convex surface can deflect spear thrusts back at attackers. The shield becomes extension of his will, part of his body in ways that transcend mere tool and user. Hunger remains a constant teacher. The boys rip their bedding from river plants with bare hands, learning to find comfort in discomfort. They rarely bathe, allowing their skin to become hard and weathered like leather. The shield feels these changes in the boy's touch, skin that was once soft, now rough and calloused. His grip becomes firmer, more assured. The 15 pounds that once seemed impossible now feels manageable, though the shield senses something precious has been lost in this exchange of weakness for strength. Years blur together in cycles of training, punishment, and gradual hardening. The shield feels the boy's body changing, muscles developing under the constant physical demands. His reflexes quicken. His endurance grows. But more importantly, his spirit transforms into something colder and more focused. The shield senses this internal change like winter settling over bronze, necessary but irreversible. The shield witnesses his first real combat training with iron weapons, feeling the new weight of a proper spear in his other hand. It experiences the complex dance of the phalanx formation, learning to move as part of something larger than itself. The aspis becomes one shield among many, part of an unbreakable wall of bronze that has never been defeated in open battle. The shield understands its destiny now, not as individual protection, but as part of a collective killing machine. By his 18th year, the young warrior no longer struggles with the shield's weight. His hands have forgotten how to be gentle, though the shield remembers their first trembling touch. The bronze surface has been polished smooth by years of handling, its lambda symbol freshly painted for the ceremonies that will mark his transition from trainee to warrior. The shield can sense his readiness, the way he moves with deadly confidence that comes only from years of brutal preparation. The shield rests now in hands that have learned to accept death as readily as life. The boy who once struggled with its weight has become a young man capable of facing mortality without flinching. The weight feels light in his grip, not because it has changed, but because he has been transformed into something strong enough to bear it. The shield prepares itself for what comes next, knowing that its real test lies not in training halls, but on battlefields where bronze meets bronze, and only one side walks away. The morning air carries new scents now, burning offerings and sacred smoke that signal the approach of something far more dangerous than training. The shield feels familiar hands grip its straps with new intensity, and senses that the years of preparation are about to meet their ultimate purpose. Dawn breaks over the sacred grounds where bronze meets divine will, and the shield feels the weight of ceremony settling over the assembled warriors. Each campaign begins with sacrifices to Zeus or Athena, seeking divine sanction for the violence ahead. The bronze absorbs the tremor in nervous fingers as its bearer stands before the temple of Ares, watching smoke rise from altars where priests perform rituals that will determine whether the gods favor their cause. The air grows thick with the scent of roasted meat and spilled wine, offerings to deities who may choose to listen or turn away. The priests examine the entrails of sacrificed animals, their weathered hands moving with practiced precision as they read messages written in blood and organ placement. The shield senses its bearer's breathing grow shallow as they wait for the verdict. These are not empty ceremonies, but vital communications with powers beyond mortal understanding. The Spartans believed deeply that divine approval can mean the difference between victory and annihilation, making these moments as crucial as any tactical decision. Spartan soldiers carry the sacred flame of sacrifice into battle camps, believing divine favor will turn the odds in their direction. Around the temple courtyard, other warriors prepare their own private prayers. Some kneel silently before small shrines, lips moving in whispered conversations with Athena, goddess of strategic warfare. Others make offerings to Ares himself, god of battles, chaos, and bloodshed. The shield observes these quiet acts of devotion, feeling the weight of collective hope pressing down like morning mist. Each prayer carries the same desperate plea for protection, for strength, for the courage to face what cannot be avoided. The full panoply waits nearby, each piece of armor gleaming in the dawn light. The bronze breastplate lies ready, its surface polished to mirror brightness. The greaves that will protect vulnerable shins rest beside bronze-tipped sandals, their metal surfaces reflecting the flickering flames of sacrificial fires. But it is the Corinthian helmet that commands the most attention, its bronze cheek guards and nosepiece ready to transform any man who wears it into something inhuman, a faceless phantom of war. You can feel the shield's anticipation as its bearer begins the ritual of arming. First comes the scarlet tunic, chosen because it has the least resemblance to women's clothing, and to be most suitable for war. The red fabric will hide bloodstains, allowing wounded warriors to continue fighting without revealing their injuries to enemies who might press their advantage. Over this goes the bronze breastplate, its weight settling across shoulders like acceptance of fate itself. The greaves slide over calves with practiced ease, bronze shells protecting the vulnerable bones beneath. Each piece of armor adds weight and restriction, transforming the fluid movements of youth into the measured steps of a warrior prepared for death. The shield feels its bearer changing with each addition, becoming something harder and more purposeful than the young man who began this transformation. When the helmet slides into place, the shield senses a fundamental shift. The bronze cheek guards muffle hearing, narrowing vision to what lies directly ahead. The face disappears behind the metal mask, leaving only dark eye slits that reveal nothing of the human within. The shield understands this transformation, watching its bearer become one of the bronze-faced phantoms that strike terror into enemy hearts across the ancient world. The warriors begin forming into their ritual positions, each man's shield overlapping with his neighbor's to create an unbroken wall of bronze. The shield feels itself pressed against others, part of something larger and more powerful than any individual warrior could ever be. This is the phalanx, the formation that has made Sparta's name synonymous with military perfection. The shield experiences the strange sensation of losing individual identity while gaining collective strength. You can sense the psychological conditioning at work as the warriors link arms and begin their chanted prayers. Fear does not disappear but transforms into something colder and more focused. The shield absorbs this change, feeling the nervous energy of its bearer converting into deadly determination. The bronze grows warm with body heat and anticipation, ready to serve as both protector and weapon in the violence that awaits. The moment arrives when mothers and wives approach to offer their terrible blessing. These women have raised sons and married husbands knowing this day would come, when bronze and flesh would meet enemy spears in distant places. Their voices carry no weakness as they speak the words that define Spartan expectation. Come back with your shield, or on it. The shield understands this blessing for what it truly is, permission to die if death serves honor's demands. Some wives press small tokens into their husbands' hands, amulets or locks of hair to carry into battle. Others simply touch the bronze rim of shields, transferring their own prayers into metal that will soon taste blood. The shield feels these gentle contacts, storing them like precious memories against the violence ahead. These touches may be the last tender moments its bearer experiences before bronze meets bronze in deadly contest. The warriors begin their slow advance, moving with the measured pace that has become their signature. Some phalanx units use flute accompaniment to keep perfect time, allowing hundreds of men to move as one organism. The shield experiences this rhythm, feeling the synchronized footsteps that make the phalanx more than just a collection of individual fighters. Each step builds momentum that will prove unstoppable when channeled into the enemy's ranks. As they march, the warriors chant verses from the poet Tyrtaeus, words that remind them why they fight and what they represent. The shield absorbs these battle songs, understanding that they serve as both inspiration and distraction from the fear that gnaws at every warrior's heart. The chanting grows louder as they approach the battlefield, voices blending into a single threat that announces Spartan presence to any who would oppose them. The shield feels the war cry building in its bearer's chest, a sound that will soon echo across the valley like thunder from clear skies. This moment marks the transformation from preparation to action, from ritual to reality. The shield understands its purpose now, not merely as protection but as sacred covenant with death itself. It will either guard its bearer's life, or serve as platform for his honored corpse, carrying him home to rest among heroes. The bronze grows heavy with expectation as the formation tightens, each shield pressing closer to its neighbors. Individual heartbeats begin to synchronize, creating something larger than the sum of its parts. The shield prepares to lose itself in this collective rhythm, ready to become part of a bronze symphony that has never known defeat. The bronze wall advances with measured steps, each warrior locked in formation 8 men deep, shields overlapping to create an unbroken barrier that stretches across the battlefield. The shield feels itself pressed against its neighbors, part of something larger and more terrible than any individual could achieve alone. You can sense the transformation as 300 separate warriors disappear into a single organism, their breathing synchronized, their footsteps keeping perfect time to the flute rhythm that has guided them since childhood. The formation moves with mechanical precision, each step calculated to maintain the wall's integrity while building unstoppable momentum. The shield experiences this collective power flowing through bronze ranks, feeling how superior training overcomes vastly superior numbers. These warriors represent decades of preparation, thousands of hours spent learning to move as one entity. Their enemies may outnumber them 10 to 1, but discipline breaks numbers like waves against stone. Individual identity vanishes completely now, absorbed into the killing machine that advances across the field. The shield no longer serves its bearer alone, but becomes part of the greater whole that defines Spartan warfare. Personal fears, private hopes, individual desires all dissolve into the shared purpose that drives the formation forward. The bronze surface reflects not one face but hundreds, each merged into the collective will that makes retreat impossible. You can feel the suffocating closeness that defines the phalanx, where personal space becomes a luxury no warrior can afford. Bodies pressed tight against each other, the man behind pushing forward with his shield, adding his weight to the momentum that carries everyone along whether they wish it or not. The shield experiences this pressure as both burden and strength, understanding how the formation's power comes from individual will surrendering to group purpose. The psychological transformation happens as bronze-faced phantoms replace the men who entered this formation. 1 Corinthian helmets have erased individuality, leaving only dark eye slits that reveal nothing of human fears beneath. These warriors have become something inhuman, a collective nightmare that advances with mechanical precision. The shield understands its role in this theatre of terror, its polished surface reflecting sunlight into enemy eyes, while hiding the mortality of the man behind it. Spears bristle forward like the quills of some ancient beast, 8-foot points of iron seeking enemy flesh. The shield feels the weight of its bearer's spear as he holds it steady, part of a forest of death that moves with hypnotic grace. Each point maintains perfect alignment with its neighbors, creating a barrier that no cavalry charge can break, and no infantry formation can penetrate. The bronze surface reflects these iron tips, multiplying their threat until the very hair seems filled with promised violence. Across the field, enemy warriors see not men but a bronze wall of death advancing with inevitable purpose. The shield absorbs the terror it inspires, feeling how its polished surface catches morning light and throws it back like captured lightning. The psychological warfare has already begun, fought with gleaming bronze and synchronized movement, rather than spears and swords. Many battles are won before the first blow is struck, conquered by the simple sight of Spartan discipline made manifest. The ground trembles beneath synchronized footsteps, each impact adding to momentum that builds like an avalanche gathering speed. The shield feels this power through the bronze, understanding how 300 warriors can generate force sufficient to crush armies many times their size. The phalanx has become fate itself, unstoppable and inevitable as the tide that wears away stone through simple persistence. Enemy arrows begin to fall among the ranks, bronze points seeking gaps in armor and resolve. The shield deflects several shafts, their iron heads ringing against bronze like distant thunder. But the formation does not waver, does not slow its advance. Warriors fall, but others step forward to fill the gaps, maintaining the wall's integrity even as death claims its first victims. The shield experiences this loss as distant ache, feeling comrades disappear while the greater organism continues its relentless advance. You can sense the formation's breathing, synchronized inhalations that create their own wind across the battlefield. The shield experiences this collective respiration as proof of the phalanx's transformation from collection of individuals into single living entity. Each breath draws in courage and exhales doubt, creating an atmosphere thick with shared determination. The bronze grows warm with body heat multiplied by hundreds, radiating the fever of warriors who have accepted death as the price of honor. The The flute music that guides their steps creates a rhythm that transcends individual heartbeats. The shield vibrates with each note, feeling how the melody transforms chaos into order and fear into purpose. This music has trained these warriors since childhood, its steady beat becoming the pulse of their shared existence. The sound calms some fears while intensifying others, creating the perfect balance of tension and control that makes the phalanx unstoppable. The shield protects not just its bearer, but his neighbor as well, each bronze face covering the vulnerable right side of the warrior to its left. This tactical reality binds the formation together with bonds stronger than bronze itself. Each man's survival depends absolutely on his comrade's courage. The shield understands this responsibility, feeling the weight of two lives rather than one pressing against its bronze surface. The moment of contact approaches with mathematical certainty, written in the distance between bronze walls and the speed of their convergence. The shield prepares itself for impact, understanding that everything until now has been mere preparation for the violence that awaits. All the training, all the ritual, all the psychological conditioning has led to this moment when bronze meets bronze, and only one side walks away. The phalanx moves forward like fate itself, each step bringing the shield closer to its baptism in violence. The formation's advance has become inevitable as sunrise, unstoppable as the mountain winds that sweep down from Tagetus. The bronze surface grows heavy with anticipation, ready to learn the difference between training and reality, between preparation and the brutal truth that waits just heartbeats ahead. The first impact arrives not as gentle contact, but as bone-jarring collision that sends shockwaves through bronze and flesh alike. 300 Spartan warriors crash into enemy lines with avalanche force, and the shield experiences its baptism in violence as individual will, disappears entirely into collective momentum. The bronze surface buckles slightly under tremendous pressure, vibrating with frequencies that speak of broken weapons and shattered resolve. The perfect formation dissolves into controlled chaos behind the bronze wall. Men scream through their helmets, voices muffled by bronze but amplified by terror and rage. Bodies press against the shield from all directions, warriors pushing forward over fallen comrades and enemies alike. Blood begins to splash against the bronze surface, warm droplets that cool quickly in morning air. The lambda symbol becomes streaked with red, transforming Lacedaemon's proud mark into something darker. The shield endures repeated spear strikes and arrow impacts, each blow testing bronze that has been hammered thin over wooden core. Enemy weapons ring against its surface like thunder, creating dents and scratches that map the violence surrounding it. The bronze rim proves deadly when enemies press too close, crushing skulls with 15 pounds of focused weight. The curved surface deflects desperate spear thrusts, while the sharpened edge opens wounds that speak of superior craftsmanship turned to killing purpose. Weight from the warrior behind adds crushing power, transforming the shield into a battering ram that breaks enemy resolve through simple physics and superior training. This reveals phalanx warfare's true secret, not individual heroics, but collective pressure applied with scientific precision. The bronze wall grinds forward like fate itself, pushing enemies back through mathematics of mass and momentum. Each step forward costs blood, but the price is always paid. Combat brings terrible intimacy as the shield witnesses warriors fighting close enough to smell fear and see light fade from dying eyes. The bronze surface reflects final moments, catching glimpses of faces that will haunt survivors' dreams. The aspis absorbs more than physical impacts, taking an emotional weight of lives ended and futures cut short. Families will wait in vain for warriors who will never return home. Individual identity disappears completely in the crushing press of combat, leaving only collective will to kill or be killed. The shield no longer serves one warrior, but becomes part of something larger and more terrible than any single fighter could achieve. Names, faces, personal histories dissolve into shared purpose that drives the formation forward through blood and chaos. The bronze reflects not one man but hundreds, each merged into the greater organism that defines Spartan warfare. The psychological conditioning from training reveals its wisdom as years of brutal preparation allow warriors to function in conditions that would break untrained men. Every beating, every hungry night, every moment of Agoge suffering has led to this ability to kill without hesitation when killing becomes the only option. The bronze grows warm with blood and sweat, understanding that training's cruelty serves battle's mercy. Enemies begin breaking against the Spartan line like waves against stone, their formations crumbling under pressure they cannot match or understand. The shield experiences this collapse not as triumph but as relief, feeling combat's terrible tension ease as resistance fades. The phalanx continues advancing, stepping over bodies that minutes before had been living men with identical hopes and fears. Battle sounds change as enemy resolve dissolves screams of rage, becoming cries of terror and desperation. The shield absorbs the clatter of dropped weapons, the splash of warriors falling into their own blood, wet sounds that mark the difference between victory and defeat. These are not glorious sounds, but necessary ones, the price paid when bronze meets bronze and only one side walks away. Sudden stillness falls across the battlefield as enemy lines finally break completely, leaving only wounded groans and the weight of what has been accomplished. The shield experiences this quiet not as peace but as aftermath, understanding that the real battle now begins living with what was done in duty's name. Blood drips from the bronze rim, each drop carrying weight of decisions that cannot be undone. The phalanx maintains formation even in victory, warriors too well trained to break ranks simply because killing has stopped. The aspis reflects bronze-masked faces around it, seeing in their silence the beginning of understanding that will take years to fully comprehend. Victory tastes of blood and exhaustion, sounds like pain that transcends language, feels like the weight of choices that can never be changed. Wounded enemies' groans rise from the ground like prayers to gods who have already chosen sides. The shield adds these sounds to memories that will never fade from its bronze surface. As Tyrtaeus tells us, Spartans honored their fallen with monuments and epigrams, understanding that some prices demand remembrance. The bronze cools as immediate combat heat fades, leaving behind terrible clarity that follows violence. The weight of what has been witnessed settles over the shield like mountain mist. This victory, like all victories, carries its own burden, the knowledge that bronze and blood have purchased another day, another battle, another test of will against impossible odds. The aspis understands now that each triumph only leads to greater challenges, each success demanding higher stakes. As the formation begins its measured withdrawal from the field, the shield senses something changing in the air around them. Word travels through the ranks like wind through bronze, carrying news that will test everything they have learned about duty, sacrifice, and the true meaning of Spartan honor. The mountains ahead hold secrets that will transform this shield from witness to legend. The narrow mountain pass called Thermopylae stretches before the shield like a corridor between worlds, barely wide enough for a few dozen men to stand shoulder to shoulder. Here, where the mountains meet the sea, the bronze surface reflects morning mist rising from waters below, carrying the scent of salt and distant smoke from Persian campfires that stretch beyond the horizon like fallen grana. Stars. The hot gates have drawn the shield into legend, though legends rarely mention the smell of death that will soon cling to stone and bronze alike. King Leonidas surveys the pass with eyes that have already accepted what must come. The shield reflects his weathered face, marked by years of warfare and the terrible knowledge that comes with command. He chose these 300 men carefully, warriors who already had sons to carry on their names, understanding that lineage matters more than individual survival when facing an empire. Before marching to this place, they consulted the oracle at Delphi, where the Pythia proclaimed that either one of Sparta's kings must die, or the city itself would be destroyed. The bronze absorbs this weight of prophecy fulfilled, sensing how each warrior carries not just weapons, but the future of everything they hold sacred. The mathematics of their situation press against the shield like physical weight. Xerxes' forces in 480 BC stretch across the landscape like a human sea, their numbers reported in the hundreds of thousands, while the Greek force counts barely 7,000 men total. The shield understands these calculations not as romantic impossibility, but as crushing certainty, the kind of mathematical truth that makes heroes of those who choose to stand anyway. Yet the narrow pass offers hope. Channeling Persian numbers into a corridor, where Spartan training can work its deadly mathematics. Morning brings the first wave of attacks, and the shield experiences combat unlike anything it has known before. These are not Greek hoplites with familiar weapons and tactics, but Persian immortals in scale armor and pointed caps, their spears shorter but their numbers endless. The bronze surface deflects arrows that fall like rain, their iron points ringing against the aspis with sounds like hammer blows on anvil. Each impact leaves its mark, small dents and scratches that accumulate as death passes close enough to sign its name on bronze. Wave after wave crashes against the Spartan line, each assault bringing fresh horrors and new ways to die. Scythian archers send volleys that darken the sky, their arrows falling so thickly that warriors joke about fighting in the shade. The shield experiences this gallows humor, understanding how men facing certain death transform terror into something they can bear. Medes with wicker shields press forward in desperate charges, followed by Saki with their distinctive pointed hats, then Bactrians and Indians and peoples whose names the Greeks barely know. The narrow pass becomes salvation and prison both, forcing Persian numbers into a corridor where discipline can triumph over mass. The shield feels the familiar rhythm of phalanx combat, but extended now beyond anything experienced in previous battles. Hours blur together as bronze meets bronze, iron seeks flesh, and the pile of enemy dead grows higher with each failed assault. The aspis begins to show wear from constant use, its bronze rim growing thin from repeated impacts against armor and bone. Heat builds in the pass as bodies press together under the Mediterranean sun, bronze armor becoming furnaces that trap and concentrate the day's warmth. The shield absorbs this temperature through its metal surface, feeling how the heat saps strength and makes each breath a conscious effort. Sweat pools inside Corinthian helmets, making vision difficult and breathing labored. Yet the line holds, maintained by discipline that transcends physical comfort or individual survival instinct. The shield senses the moment when hope transforms into something purer and more terrible, when its bearer stops fighting for victory and begins fighting for time itself. Each hour bought with blood allows Greek cities to prepare their defenses. Each day purchased with lives gives democracy itself a chance to survive. The bronze grows heavy, not with physical weight, but with the burden of this responsibility, understanding that its purpose has expanded beyond protecting one warrior to safeguarding an entire way of life. Persian frustration grows with each failed assault, their confidence eroding like stone under constant rain. The shield reflects the faces of enemy commanders as they struggle to understand how so few can stand against so many, how discipline can triumph over numbers when channeled through proper tactics. But numbers tell their own story, and mathematics cannot be defeated forever by courage alone. The bronze surface begins to show more serious damage, cracks appearing along stress points that speak of metal pushed beyond its designed limits. News arrives that changes everything. A Greek traitor named Ephialtes has shown the Persians a mountain path that leads behind the pass. The shield experiences this betrayal as physical blow, feeling how hope dies differently than men do, not with screaming or violence, but with quiet acceptance that spreads through bronze like winter chill. The warriors know their fate now, understanding that they will make their stand not to win, but to choose how they die. When Xerxes demands surrender of their weapons, Leonidas speaks the words that will echo through history. Molong Labe, come and take them. The shield vibrates with these defiant syllables, understanding that some responses transcend military strategy and become statements about what it means to be human in the face of impossible odds. The final day brings arrows that truly darken the sky, volleys so dense they create their own weather system of death falling from above. The shield experiences this iron rain, feeling shafts that find gaps in armor and others that ring harmlessly off bronze. Persian archers positioned on the heights above have turned the narrow corridor into a killing ground, where there is nowhere to hide and no escape possible. The shield feels its bearer's understanding crystallize as the end approaches, learning that true heroism lies not in winning battles but in choosing when and how to lose them. These men could have retreated, could have lived to fight another day, but they chose instead to make their deaths count for something larger than individual survival. The bronze reflects faces set in expressions of terrible calm, warriors who have moved beyond fear into acceptance of what must be done. The weight of history settles over the past like mountain mist, heavy with the knowledge that this moment will be remembered when empires crumble and cities fall to dust. The shield's stand at Thermopylae delays the Persian advance and becomes legendary, proving that some defeats matter more than victories. As the bronze grows cold with approaching death, it prepares for its final transformation, understanding that its greatest service may not be in battle, but in what comes after. The bronze surface grows cold beneath flesh that will never again grip leather straps or lift the aspis in defense of home and hearth. Death has transformed the shield's purpose, but not in the way Spartan mothers promised their sons. The weight pressing against the bronze speaks not of honor carried home, but of the harsh mathematics that govern warfare, where individual courage meets collective necessity and only one side determines the outcome. The reality of Spartan burial practices strips away romantic notions of shields bearing warriors home in solemn procession. The fallen remain where they fell, their bodies left on distant battlefields while their memory travels back to Sparta through the voices of survivors and the verses of poets like Tyrtaeus. The shield understands this practical truth, feeling how honor transforms from physical presence into something more lasting and more painful, the burden of those who must carry stories instead of bodies. The phrase echoes through bronze like a prayer both fulfilled and broken. Come back with your shield, or on it. These words, spoken by Spartan mothers as blessing and curse combined, reveal their true meaning only in aftermath. The shield has served its purpose, protecting its bearer until protection was no longer possible. But the covenant extends beyond individual survival to encompass something larger, the preservation of Spartan ideals, through sacrifice that transcends personal death. Survivors gather the shields of the fallen, bronze surfaces scarred by combat but intact enough to carry home the weight of witness. Each aspis becomes repository for memories that flesh can no longer bear, absorbing the final moments of warriors whose names will live in song long after their bodies have returned to earth. The bronze reflects not faces but absences, spaces where comrades once stood in formation that will never be filled by the same men again. The journey back to Sparta transforms these shields into something heavier than bronze and wood, weighted with survivors' guilt and the terrible knowledge of who paid the price for others' return. Each step homeward carries the burden of explanation, the need to account for empty spaces in the phalanx and familiar faces that will never again gather around Spartan hearths. The aspis absorbs this emotional weight, understanding that some battles continue long after the fighting stops. Word travels faster than marching feet, carrying news of Thermopylae's stand to a city that already knows the mathematics of such heroism. 300 warriors bought time with their lives, delaying Persian advance long enough for Greece to prepare its defenses. The shield senses how this knowledge transforms grief into something more complex, pride mixed with loss, victory measured in strategic delay rather than tactical triumph. The bronze grows heavy with the understanding that some defeats matter more than victories. The epitaph carved of Thermopylae speaks the truth that defines Spartan existence. Stranger, tell the Spartans that we lie here obedient to their words. These simple lines capture the essence of what the shield has witnessed, not individual heroism, but collective obedience to ideals that demand everything and promise only honor in return. The bronze reflects these words like light-off polished metal, understanding that its purpose extends beyond protecting life to preserving the principles that make life worth protecting. As news spreads through Spartan streets, the shield experiences the community's response to loss that was expected but still cuts deep. Tears fall in private while public mourning maintains the dignity that keeps society strong enough to send more sons into battle. The aspis understands this balance, feeling how individual sorrow transforms into collective strength through rituals that honor sacrifice while preparing for future necessity. The bronze absorbs both grief and resolve, becoming vessel for emotions too complex for simple expression. Young boys training in the Agoge pause to listen as survivors recount the battle, their voices carrying lessons written in blood and bronze. The shield senses these children's understanding, watching faces that remain soft with youth, but already marked by knowledge of what awaits them. These stories serve as education more powerful than any formal instruction, teaching through example what it means to choose duty over survival when the choice becomes inevitable. The shield settles into its new role as keeper of memory, understanding that its service continues even as its bearer rests in foreign soil. The bronze surface holds reflections of moments that will never fade: the last stand at the hot gates, the weight of impossible odds accepted with Spartan calm, the transformation of individual warriors into something larger than themselves. These images burn into metal like brands, permanent reminders of what bronze and flesh can accomplish when guided by principles stronger than fear. In the quiet hours that follow battle's end, the shield begins to understand that surviving can be its own form of sacrifice, requiring different but no less demanding courage. The bronze grows warm with this knowledge, preparing for the burden that awaits those who must live with memories that will never fade. Some wounds cut deeper than spear points, leaving scars the bronze cannot heal but must learn to bear. The aspis rests now among other shields that made the journey home, their bronze surfaces scarred but intact, carrying invisible wounds that speak of battles fought and prices paid. Each reflection holds faces of those who didn't return, ghosts that will haunt polished metal through all the quiet years ahead. The bronze surface grows cold in the mountain air, no longer warmed by living hands that will never again grip leather straps or lift the aspis in defense of home and hearth. The shield rests among scattered weapons and broken armor, part of a field where Spartan discipline met Persian numbers and paid the ultimate price. Here, where the hot gates narrow between mountain and sea, the mathematics of warfare have written their final equation in blood and bronze. The reality of Spartan warfare strips away romantic notions of glorious homecomings and triumphant returns. These warriors came to Thermopylae knowing the oracle's prophecy, understanding that either a king must die or Sparta itself would fall. The shield absorbs this knowledge through bronze that grows heavy not with physical weight, but with the understanding that survival was never the intended outcome. 300 men chose death over retreat, transforming defeat into something larger than victory. The aspis experiences the silence that follows battle's end, different from the quiet of preparation or the calm between assaults. This is the stillness of completion, when duty has been fulfilled and the price has been paid in full. The bronze reflects not the faces of survivors, but the absence where warriors once stood, spaces that will never be filled by the same men again. Each dent and scratch in the metal surface maps moments when death passed close enough to leave its signature, but the final accounting shows that proximity was not enough. Spartan society valorized death in battle above all other forms of departure from life, creating a culture where survival could become its own form of shame. The shield understands this harsh mathematics, feeling how the weight of expectation transforms individual choice into collective necessity. Warriors who fled the field faced ostracism worse than death, their names erased from family records and their existence denied by the community that once claimed them as sons. The bronze grows cold with this knowledge, understanding that courage was not optional but mandatory, enforced by social pressure more powerful than enemy spears. The few who might survive such encounters carried burdens heavier than bronze, weighted with questions that had no satisfying answers. Why did one man live when his shield brother fell beside him? Why did bronze turn aside the blade that found gaps in a neighbor's armor? The aspis senses these doubts even in its stillness, understanding how survival could become its own form of torment for men trained to value honor above breath itself. The metal surface holds these unspoken guilts like trapped reflections, images that will never fade from bronze memory. The shield witnesses how Spartan culture responded to trauma with the same rigid discipline that created warriors, expecting men to bear their wounds as silently as they bore their shields into battle. Those rare survivors who returned from campaigns faced a society that offered no vocabulary for discussing the invisible injuries the warfare inflicted on human hearts. The bronze understands this enforced stoicism, feeling how community needs demanded individual silence about experiences too terrible for civilian comprehension. Physical wounds healed with time and care, But the shield absorbed knowledge of injuries that existed beyond any physician's skill. The constant exposure to violence and death, beginning in childhood training and extending through decades of warfare, left marks that bronze could witness but never heal. The aspis reflected faces that had learned to hide pain behind expressions of practiced strength, understanding that weakness was not permitted in a society built on the foundation of military supremacy. The Agoge training that began at age 7 created warriors through systematic brutalization that left psychological scars as permanent as battle wounds. The shield had witnessed this transformation from the beginning, feeling small hands grow strong enough to lift bronze while something essential was lost in the exchange. Hunger, cold, violence, and isolation were not accidents of training, but deliberate tools used to forge human metal harder than bronze itself. The aspis understood that this process created effective killers, but at costs that society chose not to calculate. Spartan emphasis on physical perfection and the elimination of those deemed weak created a culture where individual value was measured solely by military utility. The shield experienced this harsh sorting, understanding how men were reduced to their function as weapons in service of state power. Those who could not meet the physical and psychological demands faced rejection more complete than death, their existence erased from community memory as if they had never been born. The bronze surface holds reflections of a society that achieved military excellence through systematic sacrifice of human gentleness, creating warriors who could face death without flinching but struggled to live with peace. The shield understands this trade, feeling how Spartan greatness was purchased with the currency of childhood innocence and emotional capacity. Each victory was won by men who had been taught to value duty over love, honor over happiness, death over compromise. The aspis rests now in mountain silence, its bronze surface scarred but intact, carrying within its metal memory the faces of those who chose death over dishonor. The shield has served its purpose, protecting its bearer until protection was no longer possible, then witnessing his transformation from warrior to legend. The bronze grows thin not from battle damage but from the accumulated weight of all it has absorbed, understanding that some burdens are too heavy for metal alone to bear. As mountain winds whisper through the narrow pass, the shield prepares for its final role, no longer as weapon or protection but as keeper of memory itself, holding within its bronze silence the truth that all warriors eventually learn. Bronze holds more than metal can contain, carrying within its scarred surface the accumulated weight of generations who lifted shields in service to Sparta's unforgiving ideals. The aspis rests now in contemplation, its surface bearing witness to truths that only weapons can understand about the price of perfection and the cost of creating warriors from children who once knew gentleness. Spartan shields symbolized both protection and civic duty, with every dent telling of rigorous training and battlefield tests that transformed boys into instruments of state policy. The bronze surface reflects not just light, but the systematic process that began at age 7, when small hands first struggled with weight that seemed impossible to bear. Each scratch maps moments when courage overcame fear, when discipline conquered natural human reluctance to face mortality in service of ideals larger than individual survival. The aspis carries within its metal memory the understanding that it served as both protector and teacher, shielding bodies while shaping souls according to Spartan expectations that admitted no compromise. Through decades of service, the shield witnessed the transformation of childhood innocence into something harder and more focused, watching as laughter gave way to laconic speech, and curiosity surrendered to unquestioning obedience. The bronze grew warm with the heat of forge fires and battlefield fury, cooling again in quiet moments when warriors remembered what they had sacrificed to become what Sparta demanded. You can sense the shield's awareness of its role in perpetuating cycles that created excellence through systematic brutalization, understanding now that military supremacy required payment in currencies that extended far beyond gold or territory. The Agoge produced warriors of unmatched skill and unwavering courage, but this same system demanded the sacrifice of qualities that make life worth living beyond the battlefield. The shield absorbed these contradictions through bronze that learned to bear witness without judgment, holding space for both greatness and its terrible cost. The aspis reflects on moments of beauty glimpsed between battles, when bronze caught mountain sunrises that painted metal with colors softer than blood, when quiet conversations revealed hearts that still remembered tenderness despite years of conditioning designed to eliminate such weakness. These memories settle into the metal like prayers, reminding the shield that even the hardest warriors carried vulnerability alongside their weapons, transforming fear into courage through acceptance rather than denial. Through its service, the shield learned that strength and vulnerability dance together in ways that create meaning from suffering, each defining the other in relationships too complex for simple understanding. The strongest warriors often felt fear most keenly, channeling terror into effectiveness through training that began before memory could properly form. The bronze absorbed these lessons through countless grips, feeling how trembling hands grew steady not through the elimination of fear, but through its transformation into something useful rather than paralyzing. The shield witnessed courage revealing itself not as the absence of fear, but as the willingness to act despite terror that gnaws at mortal hearts, understanding that every warrior who lifted bronze carried both protection, burden in equal measure. Each battle taught new lessons about the relationship between individual sacrifice and collective survival, showing how personal mortality could serve purposes that transcended any single life or death. The aspis holds within its scarred surface the realization that heroism lies not in victory, but in the willingness to serve something larger than individual survival, accepting whatever price such service demands from those who choose duty over comfort. The bronze has felt this acceptance through generations of warriors who understood that their shields represented more than personal protection, serving as symbols of commitment to ideals that outlasted any individual who carried them into battle. The lambda painted on bronze speaks of more than geographical origin, marking the shield as witness to humanity's capacity for both greatness and necessary cruelty. Love and the willingness to sacrifice what we love most for principles that demand everything from those who serve them. The red paint has faded through years of service, but the symbol remains visible, carrying forward the weight of Spartan identity forged in bronze and blood. As the shield settles into understanding earned through centuries of service, the bronze grows warm with memories that span from forge fires to battlefield heat, cooling now into the gentle temperature that comes with complete acceptance of what has been witnessed and endured. The aspis prepares to pass its wisdom forward, knowing that its role as teacher has become more important than its function as weapon. The accumulated weight of memory transforms into something that can be shared rather than simply carried, each scar telling stories worth preserving for warriors yet unborn who will take up bronze and spear in service to ideals that transcend individual mortality. The shield understands that its greatest service may lie not in the battles it fought, but in the lessons it can teach about the true cost of carrying bronze into combat. In quiet moments like these, when bronze reflects candlelight rather than enemy spears, the shield finds peace in the knowledge that it has served its purpose completely, witnessing transformation and sacrifice while holding space for both courage and its price. The aspis settles into its final role, ready to share wisdom that only weapons can possess about what it means to bear the weight of duty when duty demands everything. As you drift to sleep, remember how Spartan shields bore burdens beyond metal courage, sacrifice, and memory, carrying within their bronze silence truths about the price of greatness and the weight of serving ideals, larger than any single life. The shield rests now, preparing for the gentle peace that comes only after service has been completed and wisdom earned through witness to humanity's capacity for both heroism and its cost. The bronze surface catches the last light of day, no longer reflecting the harsh glare of battle, but the softer glow of understanding that comes only after service has been completed. The shield rests now in quiet contemplation, its scarred metal holding within itself the accumulated wisdom of generations who lifted bronze in service to ideals that demanded everything from those who served them. You can sense the aspis settling into its final role, no longer protector of individual lives but keeper of collective memory, ensuring that lessons written in bronze and blood remain available to those who follow. The weight it carries now differs from the physical burden of combat. This is the lighter but more precious weight of wisdom earned through witness to humanity's capacity for both courage and sacrifice. The shield's bronze surface holds reflections of all it has witnessed, from the trembling hands of 7-year-old boys first learning to grip leather straps to the steady grasp of warriors who faced impossible odds with Spartan calm. Each scratch and dent tells stories that transcend individual battles, speaking to universal truths about what it means to serve something larger than personal survival. Through decades of faithful service, the Aspis learned that strength reveals itself not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to act despite terror that gnaws at mortal hearts. The bronze absorbed this knowledge through countless grips, feeling how trembling hands grew steady not through the elimination of doubt, but through its transformation into something useful rather than paralyzing. Every warrior who lifted the shield carried both protection and vulnerability in equal measure, each defining the other in relationships too complex for simple understanding. The shield witnessed how Spartan discipline created warriors of unmatched skill through systematic conditioning that began before memory could properly form. The Agoge's brutal training instilled tolerance for pain and hardship that became central to their military success, allowing them to maintain strength and resolve even when facing adverse conditions. Yet the bronze also reflected moments of gentleness glimpsed between battles, when quiet conversations revealed hearts that still remembered tenderness despite years of conditioning designed to eliminate such gall. Perceived weakness. You can feel the Aspis understanding that its greatest service may lie not in the battles it fought, but in the lessons it can teach about the true cost of carrying bronze into combat. The shield learned that heroism lies not in victory, but in the willingness to serve something larger than individual survival, accepting whatever price such service demands from those who choose duty over comfort. Each warrior who gripped its straps made this choice anew, transforming personal mortality into collective strength through acceptance rather than denial. The bronze holds within its scarred surface the realization that courage and sacrifice dance together in ways that create meaning from suffering, each defining the other through relationships that transcend simple understanding. The strongest warriors often felt fear most keenly, channeling terror into effectiveness through training that transformed natural human reluctance into deadly precision. The shield absorbed these contradictions through metal that learned to bear witness without judgment, holding space for both greatness and its terrible cost. Through its service, the Aspis came to understand that some battles end not in victory or defeat, but in wisdom. Some weights become lighter through acceptance, and some dreams grow sweeter when they no longer carry the burden of tomorrow's demands. The bronze grew warm with memories that span from forge fires to battlefield heat, cooling now into the gentle temperature that comes with complete understanding of what has been witnessed and endured. The shield's laconic silence mirrors the Spartan way of speech, characterized by brevity and focus that emphasized saying only what was important. This economy of communication reflected an economy of mind and laser focus on essential truths, enabling clarity of action when action was required. The bronze learned this same discipline, holding its lessons without unnecessary elaboration, letting metal speak to those who would listen in languages older than human speech. The Aspis reflects on how Spartan warriors cultivated their intimidating appearance with scarlet tunics, polished bronze armor, and long hair, creating psychological advantage before fighting even began. Yet beneath this calculated image lay men who engaged in rituals of poetry and prayer, seeking divine approval through sacrifices and omens that underscored their humility before forces beyond their control. The shield witnessed both faces of Spartan culture, the terrifying efficiency of professional killers, and the reverent piety of men who understood their limitations. As the bronze settles into its final understanding, it recognizes that its purpose has evolved rather than ended. Where once it protected individual lives, now it preserves collective memory, ensuring that lessons about courage, sacrifice, and the weight of serving ideals larger than personal survival remain available to those who seek such wisdom. The shield has become teacher rather than weapon, offering knowledge earned through experience rather than instruction. In our modern reflection on the Spartan legacy, we can find both inspiration and warning in their dedication to mastering the art of war through lives devoted entirely to military service. Their specialization gave them advantages over part-time soldiers, but at costs measured in currencies that extended far beyond territory or gold. The bronze reminds us that excellence often demands prices we may not be prepared to pay, and that strength can be purchased with the sacrifice of qualities that make life worth living beyond the battlefield. The shield's journey from forge to legend teaches us that true courage lies not in never breaking, but in the quiet willingness to bear witness to life's weight. Understanding that some burdens must be carried not because they are light, but because they are necessary. May your dreams be wiser and gentler than bronze faces of war. The bronze surface grows still now, its service complete, carrying within its scarred metal the weight of lessons that transcend any single battle or warrior. Through forge fire and battlefield fury, the shield witnessed how ordinary boys transformed into something harder and more focused, learning that courage reveals itself not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to serve ideals larger than individual survival. Tonight we honor Spartan courage and find peace beyond steel. Sleep well and rest knowing duty carried its weight.